beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I do that often too.
Come off mute.
Charlie, you're muted.
Thank you. It was the first time I really felt it because I could hear it well, but I could feel it better. And the feeling nature is what the Harthers are talking about, the Harther people that live in the fourth dimension want us, are telling us it's going to be sound. That's very important for this next
And
leg of
before you start, Charlie, before you start, I have a friend that made a CD. We took classes together and he
yeah.
made a CD, but he had two people and was really cool. If I had another person here, I would do it. Somebody was doing a heartbeat on the drum while he was doing the bowls. Oh, beautiful. Really awesome.
Yeah. Wow. I know I had a struggle the other night and I was restless and I got before 4 o'clock and I got on to the Harther material and Tom Kenyon. I listened to the sounds they were making uh, and the beautiful, magnificent images that they put up on the screen, and they varied. And they were so beautiful. So it was certainly very relaxing. And then taking my dog out on a stroll was also very relaxing. So so things like that are very helpful. So we're going to continue the discussion about what the Harthers taught. I misplaced the book, but I've read it and I embraced it and I've learned from it. Today we're going to use some descended instead of ascended masters. We're taking the word from descended people or people that have lived their lifetime here. And so, Nikki, if you'll put up on the screen the first one I sent to you, which has to do with attachments, non-attachments, and detachments. The subject we're working on is, how does one release from the tyranny of upset, the tyranny of can't sleep, the tyranny of can't get along. And so when we look at it from a psychological point of view, you can see that attachment versus non-attachment. Here's what it says. Kevin, if you'd like to read that, you've got a good voice. You're muted.
Okay. Attachment versus non-attachment. Attachment is a deep, enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another. In psychology, this is a core concept originating from attachment theory. It describes the innate human need to form a strong emotional bond or to form emotional bonds, beginning with infants and their caregivers. This bond provides a sense of safety and a secure base from which to explore the world. As adults, these patterns continue in our friendships, romantic relationships, and even spiritual life. Attachment itself isn't bad. Secure attachment is healthy and vital for well-being. However, insecure attachments, like anxious or avoidant styles, can lead to difficulties in relationships. In spirituality, especially Eastern, In contexts like Buddhism and Hinduism, attachment has a different meaning. It refers to the clinging, craving, or grasping onto people's objects, outcomes, or even one's own ideas and self image, because all these things are impermanent. This clinging is seen as a primary root of suffering.
Okay, let's pause there a moment. Is there any questions about what Kevin just read? I think it's pretty darn clear. It helped clarify a lot for me about it's okay when we get married, right? The bonds of marriage, we get bonded. We have a child, we bond to that. We have a good friend, we bond to them. But it's not, it's only a problem if it becomes a clinging bond, which is a problem. My sister, when she was engaged, she had a clinging nature, and the guy left her at the altar rail. And it was a bad thing. It wasn't nice the way he did it, but he was smart. He did it because she was a Klingon, and it's difficult to live with a person that has to be needy that way. I mean, Paula, maybe you can read the next one on detachment.
I will try.
Thank you.
Detachment is an act of disconnection, withdrawal, and emotional separation. It is generally characterized by indifference and an avoidance of feeling. In psychology, emotional detachment is often a clinical term used to describe a state of emotional numbness or blunting, is an inability or unwillingness to connect with others on an emotional level. Common causes, it's frequently a defense mechanism against overwhelming stress, anxiety, or trauma like post-traumatic stress. Excuse me. The experience, a detached person pulls away from life. They may seem aloof, distant, or unable to show empathy. It's a state of not feeling and not engaging as a way to avoid potential pain. It's a form of avoidance.
Exactly. So we can discuss that for a moment. I certainly have experienced that in my life where I avoid seeing my brother, avoid seeing that person. And as long as we're in avoidance, then it creates a conflict in our emotional body. So it's harmful. So, okay, let's move on to that. Unless you have any questions, let's move on to the next subject, non-attachment. Nikki, maybe you'd like to read that one.
Okay. Non-attachment is the most misunderstood of the three. It's not about being cold or uncaring. It's the ability to fully engage in life and love deeply without clinging, controlling, or being dependent on a specific outcome. The core concept, non-attachment, is about being in the world but not being owned by it. You can have preferences, goals, and deep relationships, but your inner peace and happiness are not dependent on them. The experience. It is a state of active, mindful presence. You can experience all your emotions, joy, grief, love, anger, without being controlled by them. You love people for who they are, not for what they provide you. You work toward a goal, but you are not crushed if the outcome is different from your expectation. The key analogy, non-attachment is like holding something in an open palm. You can appreciate it, experience it, and let it be what it is. Attachment is grasping it in a clenched fist, trying to possess and control it, and detachment is refusing to hold it at all.
So Nikki, when you've asked me to do this session or these sessions, this is what has worked for me when I'm not attached, I'm not detached, I'm not avoiding. I'm in a space where my wife dies. I'm living in the now. I'm not holding on to the past, and I'm not gripping onto the future. So it's, I don't have to go through so much grievance. Now, not everybody grieves, and I certainly have a slow grieving process with her as she declined in her ability to do things. And so it put a crimp in our lifestyle. I grieve the loss of that. But when she passed, I did not grieve the loss of her passing because of my spiritual understanding that life's a continuum and she's not gone. And I don't know, I don't know if I told you this. This week, I had a dream. It was a very frustrating dream. I was on a trip with Bobby and her mother, and we're like on a super large cruise ship. It was very large. And Bobby got separated from us, and I got worried about her. Yet I had to watch her mother, who was having difficulties. What happened was I decided, well, maybe I can call Bobby on the phone. So I got my phone out, and I was going to start dialing it or asking it to dial up her. And all of a sudden, her voice came through on the phone. And it was a deep resonance. It was a voice that, from the deepest well of emotion, would say she loved me, something to that effect. So that was marvelous that, that you get to have that experience, and you get a deeper sensation that life is a continuum if people can talk to you like from the other side. So that was marvelous. It was also a very frustrating dream, and frustrations are there to kind of help us work out the frustrations of our daily life. So attachment, detachment, non-attachment. It's good. I'm glad I found this on the internet, or I use artificial intelligence, and they pulled it up so quickly because I woke up this morning and I wanted a greater understanding, a definition of, we say we're non-attached. Well, or is that because we're avoidance? I had an experience this weekend with avoidance, which we may get into later on. But let's go through the summary to see if there's anything there. Just read it and see if there's anything there that you want to talk about, share. The summary of the difference between the concepts, the stance, the experience, and the example with a relationship. So you can see, like, as you go through it, you can read those portions of it. If anything pops out to you and you want to discuss it, now it could be a good time. So we can see that attachment is clinging, and detachments can be avoiding, which can create problems. And non-attachments is a loving engagement without clinging. So you could say I had a loving engagement with Bobby for 63 years. You could say I had a loving engagement with my home of 43 years, and I did. I loved every moment of it. I got up every day and I expressed my appreciation for the people that built it, the people that helped me support it, etc. So I loved it, but I did not cling to it. Now, my new home, I have a lot of memorabilia about how my life has been, and reminding me of my 90 years on the planet. And it's nice to have a remembrance of traveling or seeing somebody or having a grandchild or great grandkid. So I like having remembrances around me. So I thought we could take a moment here because we can do a form of the meditation that the Harthars taught about the pranic tube, because I found by clearing the pranic tube, it allows us to get more in tune, in touch with our feelings. And the heart is the transformational healer, so that the heart, when you feel the heart open like a flower, a lotus, then whatever we put into that moment, to say we had an attachment to something, or we had a detachment, which is we're still struggling through, we can bring that to our awareness during this meditation. And when we go up and down the pranic tube and feel the energy, then we'll focus on the heart center. And in the heart center, you bring that moment or moments where you may have had difficulty with, say, others, or some conflict that's unresolved. And we'll come back and discuss it. How's that sound? Okay. All right, so it's helpful to get into either sit upright into a relaxed state, usually with your eyes closed. You can also lay down if that helps you. And then I want you to pay attention to your breath. And so to begin with, on each inward breath, I want you to say the words to yourself as you breathe in, God is. And on the exit breath, say, I am. And you can do that for a few minutes. So in the intake breath, the outtake breath, you express one, and on the other, the other. So it's process is, I take, as I take a deep breath in, I say, God is. And then the out breath, I am. We'll do that for a few minutes. Let's begin now. Be quiet. God. So now with the input of each breath, as you feel the energy coming up the pranic tube with the intake, and when you're exhausted, you feel it coming down the pranic tube. And you can do that for several minutes. Feel it come up and down. And if you can reach the core of the earth on the uptake, and the central sun of the main spirit of life on the downtake. And we'll do that. And as you do that, pay attention to your feeling nature and focus on your heart. And then when you're ready, bring in anything that's like a conflict you'd like to resolve. As you do it, become aware of your feeling nature. So when you're ready, raise your hand. Let me know you're through. So I can't see you, Dolly, so I presume you've raised your hand. Okay. So who would like to share their meditative experience? How it felt for you?
Been doing some work with watching the Ascended Masters coming through channels, various channels. And what they talk about is having this quantum observation. That's the non-attachment. It's like you still love and you still present, but you're just witnessing and holding space for that other being to have their experience. And so as I'm doing the breath work and bringing in the energy and releasing other energies that are no longer serving, I think about that and the thought of the quantum entanglement of our lizard brain when we're anxious over things like the news, what Laura was talking about earlier, or the state of the world, or relationships that are not going well. And rather than avoiding, I was thinking about this during the meditation and just kind of being more still and centered about just witnessing as opposed to being engaged with it. And that was calming for me.
Yeah, kind of biblically in the world, it says we're in the world, but we're not of it. And by not of it, I think it's kind of saying we're not attached, or not attached to what we're creating. You know, and yeah, that's a great example of it, because that there have been examples where people in the midst of war um, had no fear, and it wasn't because they were paralyzed or frozen. It was because they reached a spiritual state of understanding. They felt it in their limbs. In fact, there's a story you can find probably on the internet about a lady that walked out of a Auschwitz camp because she had the belief she could do it. And somehow it worked. She left. And there was Viktor Frankl, who had a wonderful experience. I mean, yeah, it's a horrible situation to be in, but what he came out with and what he taught was absolutely amazing. So, anyone else want to share their experience of the meditation? No one? If
I
Dolly,
will.
okay, Laura was ready to say something. Thank you.
Yeah, I was very relaxed, but when you said bring in a conflict or something that's going on for you right now, one of my daughter's best friends from high school, actually junior high, came to see me last week and she was very upset. And she kept saying, I'm broken. And she kept crying and repeating herself. And she had a stroke a couple years ago, but her friends all think that she's drinking. And I honestly couldn't tell. But I decided that when she was here and she was going through this, I just felt like she was reaching out for help. And I just listened and held her and tried to comfort her. And I feel like the old me would want to fix her. But instead, I just decided I would just be there. Just be there for her.
How'd that feel?
It felt good.
You bet it did.
Yeah.
How
Because
did
otherwise, I would have been, how can I help? How can I fix you? What can I do? And it would have drove me crazy.
yeah. And how did she respond?
But well, she really opened up and she said, I have not been honest with my therapist, but I can be honest with you. I'm broken. I just feel broken.
Oh my
And
God.
and I gave her some breathing techniques. That's what I did.
Yeah. I
And
wonder.
I just said, I'm here for you. If you need anything, just don't hesitate to call or stop over. I'm here for you.
What a wonderful way to be of service, you know? And it's so helpful when people do reach out because they are asking for help. And sometimes verbally, you don't know what to say. You don't know what the problem is. But now you get into the feeling nature and it elicited that in you and in her. That marvelous example. Thank you. Anyone else? You don't have to top that. You just have to be willing to speak.
With her fur babies.
yeah.
So when I first started the meditation, I was very aware of kind of like a block or like anger block holding in my midsection. And I didn't feel like it was my own. It felt collective. Like it's one of the issues that I have issues that I'm sure many of us have as empaths that I'm picking up a lot of what's going on. So it's important that I identify what's mine and what's not mine. But when I opened my eyes to look at the visual and I focused on the visual of that center, it just all dissipated. It just all kind of released. And I felt much more relaxed and was able to let that go. And then was just aware of every day, moment by moment, oftentimes, even day by day, it's a struggle to remind myself because I've almost as a mantra that be in the world, not of the world, has been with me for many years, and it's it's wonderful at being able to pull me back to present moment. But in this day and age, I find more than ever, it's very challenging to watch or bear witness to the atrocities that occur on a micro and macro level. And to discern, to use discernment as to when to be attached and sending out love, but also recognizing when physical action is necessary to show up for our fellow beings. I think that in religious science of mind, just as an example, because that's what I subscribe to as well, they had a Facebook forum recently that really spawned a lot of negativity, which surprised me because somebody mentioned the No Kings March, please be safe. That's all they said. They didn't say they were in favor of it. They didn't anything. And it just lit up a firestorm of responses from people who politics has no business in religion or spirituality. And I take take that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that our beingness should permeate our political beliefs or way of being. I don't see how you can segregate that, and I'm rather disappointed in the lack of spiritual people who don't engage, not in fighting, but holding the space, more physically active. I understand that people are doing it internally, holding space, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying we have to use discernment as to when it's time to say something that shows our support for life enhancement and not things that are taking away from life. And so all of that came up in my little meditation.
And that's great, Caitlin. Thank you. You brought out some excellent points. Excellent, because we have learned to believe we don't mix politics with religion, or we don't discuss this at the table because blah, blah, blah. And what we're really talking about is dogmatism. Dogmatism, it's awful. I mean, it means you're closed-minded, you're not open to solutions. And in your description, you want to be part of the solution. You're moved to be part of the solution, and that's good. That's like the spirit within you moving you forward. I love that, and you feel inspired to do something. Where does inspiration come from? We breathe in spirit and we breathe it out in our activities. I think I talked last week about a yoga instructor, and we're different in our philosophy. I mean, he doesn't care how much noise is going on in the room, and he thinks the idea of yoga is putting out the distractions of sound. Well, I can't dispute that. But what's wrong with using the intelligence? If you have a quiet room, use it, right? It's like crazy not to. And so he didn't want to stretch that way. He had a resistance to that, and that was okay. So we learn to accept each other for our own beliefs or understandings. But that's a wonderful example, isn't it? Too, when you feel inspired, dogmatism fades away. It has nothing about with dogmatism. It has about being of service from your heart center. and of course, biblically, it says probably if you can, the most generous thing you can do is die to save another, so to speak, right? It's like not out of heroism, but out of passion, out of compassion. If you're out of a compassionate moment, you put your everything aside and you rescue that person that's burning in a car or something. That's marvelous, marvelous. And because deep down we know that there's nothing in us that ultimately dies anyway. It's just an earthly experience. So thank you again. That was a great contribution. Does anybody have a lesser contribution? Because people often compare themselves with others, right? Oh God, I can never. That didn't happen to me. Or why didn't my wife speak to me when she died? Comparisons suck. So it's not living in the now. Okay. Anyone else?
Well, what came to me, I'm a poster child for non-attachment. I grew up for the first 5 years in the orphanage foster family situation. So I don't attach to anything. But in all of that, my only comment is it's to be non-attached to things is self-empowering. I depend on me, and I know I'm the only one that will be there tomorrow, deep down, but yet it enables me to reach out to others, and not in a clinging way, but in a loving, spiritual way kind of thing. And it's not for ego. It's not to satisfy my need for attaching to anything, but in my non-attachment, it has made me, I think, internally very spiritually willing to accept in and not on a clinging basis, but on a giving basis sort of thing. And to be non-attached is a severely empowering feeling.
Thank you, Kevin. I have an interest in asking a question here, and if you don't want to answer, it's okay. You were very passionate about, I guess, gay rights or that movement, as I understand it, and you took a leadership role or something. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so, were you able to do that in a non-attachment way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you got
Because it wasn't a personal outcome for me. It
yeah,
was a personal outcome for my community.
right,
So it wasn't just to satisfy my own issues, sort
right,
of,
right,
but it was because I was non-attached, I was able to bring in all my fellow community members, kind of thing.
right. So you had a movement that was important for you, and you accomplished a lot. That's wonderful. So, if we feel inspired to do something and we fail to move on that inspiration, it's it's a problem. It's like emotional problem. We don't do what our inner nature is telling us it's important for us to do. It's a denial. So denial is a form of detachment. And so if we get into denial, and we probably all have one time or another, it helps to know if we're in that mode of being. And it's okay if we're in it, but if we know we can shift from it, that's wonderful too. And then we know we have the tools to help us shift from being in avoidance. Um, well, anyway, that was very nice. I appreciate anybody sharing anything. I know Dolly's even getting a point in her life where she's starting to share. And sometimes I can't shut her up. She shares so much. I don't want to. I love her sharing and her caring. So, Dolly, have you got any comments you would like to make? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Well, I'm listening and I'm doing things, so I'm multitasking because I have somewhere to be. So I apologize.
Okay, so you weren't totally focused in on the process.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right. That's the choice. Now, um, there's another subject I think, I don't know if we have time to cover it, but we can begin it. And Dolly, if you can bring it up, not Dolly, but Nikki, on the wants and needs. I had some big issues with that this weekend, so it was important for me to understand this more thoroughly. So, what is the difference between want and need? The document explains the fundamental difference between two key concepts, needs and wants. Understanding this distinction is a core principle in economics, philosophy, and personal finance. 1. What is a need? A need is something that is essential for survival and basic well-being. Needs are the non-negotiable requirements for a healthy, stable life. If a need is not met, it leads to a negative outcome, such as illness, distress, or even death. Needs are generally universal and finite. So the key categories of needs are 1, psychological needs. These are the most basic requirements for human survival. Example, air, water, sleep, warmth, clothing. We all want those for ourselves and others. Safety and security needs. One's physiological needs are met, we require safety. We want a shelter, a place to live, a personal security away from harm. We want good health and financial security, like a job, a resource. On that subject, some people that are in search of or wanting to express love and joy and peace lose their ability or lose their sense of a need to do what's required, like they support themselves. So they're like free spirits and they live on Mother Nature, or they float from one thing to another. And in some circles would say they're not grounded. So we have to be grounded into our human nature as well as our spiritual nature. Psychological needs, while not for immediate physical survival, these are essential for mental and emotional well-beings. Example, social connections, love, belonging, friendship, and self-esteem, feeling competent and respected. This concept is famously illustrated by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which organizes human needs into different levels. Is that on the screen? You can bring that up. Maslow's needs.
1 second.
Okay, so anybody around science of mind or philosophy or psychology is well acquainted with this hierarchy of Maslow's needs. First one is self-actualization, desire to become the most that one can be. Well, we in our ministry, that's exactly what we encourage people to do and be. Esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. Well, we have to have it within ourselves before we can offer it to anyone else or be the example. Love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. I moved into a neighborhood, and the first thing I did was reach out to my neighbors and wanting to know them, to meet them. I want to have a sense of connection. And safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property. Well, and that has a lot to do with, how do you feed yourself? How do you provide shelter? What do you do? What do you do? You're entitled to return for your services. So some people in the healing field don't charge for healing, and that's fine. I was one of those. As long as you have your other needs provided for, as long as you have a source of income, a source of shelter and food, and take care of your health. Psychological needs, air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. I mean, that's so fundamental and basic. So thank you, Maslow, for doing that. So now to what is a want? Lower it a little bit. Okay, Thank you, Nikki. What does a want? A want is a desired preference or wish for something. Wants are non-essential for survival. What they can make life more enjoyable, comfortable, and interesting. Wants are typically specific, numerous, are often influenced by culture, advertising, and personal taste. If a want is not met, the result is disappointment, not harm. Now, connecting wants to needs. Wants are often very versions of needs. You need food, so you want, what do you want? You want gourmet pizza? So you have an infinite variety of choices of foods. You need shelter. You have a lot of different choices for shelter, right? 1 bedroom, flat, whatever, a 5-bedroom house. You need clothing. You want a specific pair of designer jeans, so what do you want? You need social connection. But you want to be popular, social media. So the summary is the table below here. Definition. So a need is something essential for survival. A want is a desire or preference. Requirement requires non-negotiable. You have to have it. Wants are optional. Consequence. If you have an unmet cause or harm of distress, that's a real need. But a want is caused by disappointment. Universal origin, universal and innate, specific and often learned. The quality finite or virtually infinite. So you can say that our needs are finite, but our wants are virtually infinite or unlimited. So an example of water and shelter safety. But part of that is we might want a smartphone, a sports car, or vacation. So what's the difference? What difference does it matter? Well, personal finances, like successful budgeting, relies on covering all your needs first, then using leftover income for wants. Decision making, it helps you prioritize your time and your energy and money. Yes, you can, Caitlin. Nikki can give you she has the files. Well-being, recognize that many desires and wants, not needs, can reduce anxiety and increase contentment with what you have. Okay, so the reason I brought all this up, needs and wants, is because this weekend, my grandson moved in with us, and he was living with me in our other home. And he's been extremely helpful when I ask him to do a specific task, and he finds the time to do it. He's brilliant. His mind is quick. He can resolve issues like on my computer, and in 3 minutes, and it would take me 3 hours, and I might not even get finished. Or he can put together a bookcase or a shelf or hang pictures that I can't climb ladders. So he's been a tremendous help. But he asked me if I wanted to bring over a statue of St. Francis from my old house. And I thought, yeah, why not? That's a good idea. I put it in the yard originally. We put a little cement on it to hold it secure. And he looked at it and he said, his first reaction was, "That's too heavy, I can't do it." Well, he's 6'1" and he played water polo through college, and so he was very strong. So I looked at that. Now my need was that he doesn't. It wasn't so much a want, it doesn't have to be done, but my need was for him to do it. I feel I'm supporting him and giving him a place to live while he's earning his education. I'm helping him out with that. I'm providing funds for him. So I expect, like a member family, my want was for him to do it. And so I kept getting excuses, and finally I give him a solution. If it's too heavy for you, ask somebody to help you, And he finally did get around to asking some people I suggested. He didn't come up with it. So make the long story short, it took maybe 10 days to get the statue, or maybe 6 days to get the statue over here. And then when he got it over here, I showed him where it was a very easy place to put it. It doesn't require much movement, doesn't require much strength. I said, okay, understood. He'll do that the next morning. So I thought that was an agreement. Well, the next morning he slept in. He got up just in time to rush out the door to go to school and shower. And I said, well, okay, can I do that? Yeah, it's important you get your shower. So when he came home and everything's fine. And the next day, I didn't bring it up. I thought he'd certainly find time to do it. He never did. So by the next day, this was yesterday, I felt a need to confront him because I'm disturbed. My wants turn into anxiety. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that he's not performing. And so I let him know about it, and he tells me his side of the story and his reasons, and he didn't consider it a need. He made it very clear it's not a need. I'm here to help you. If you faint, I'll take you to the hospital or something. If you need pills, I'll get them for you. That's a need, but it's only a want. He didn't understand that the want was important to me to see that he would follow through. So, and he's studying psychology, so we discussed the needs and wants, so we understood each other a little better. Because I said to him, in my house, if I have a restless night, like 4 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep, so I felt I needed to deal with this. Yet he told me he wanted to sleep in the whole weekend. Don't bother me, because he hightailed it and hid in his room. And he also told me, he said, "You're only doing this because you're hurting." Well, obviously, that wasn't the case. He was hurting. He felt the need to run to his room because it infected his self-image. He was hurting, and so he had to go off and hide. I was angry. That's what I was dealing with, my own anger. And so I knew we needed to find resolution. So we got together and he discussed the needs and wants, and I understood more clearly what they were. And I'm glad he brought that up. And we came to an understanding that I need to do more than verbally talk to him. I need to text him so he can schedule for his wants, right? Into his wants, not his needs, his wants. And to make his wants mine, he used the word, I'm here because I'm sacrificing myself for you. And I said, I don't want you to do that. You're not here to do that. Sacrifice you, because if you're sacrificing, you're not coming from your heart. You're coming from your ego. You're giving up something and you're feeling, I gotta do it. So anyway, we come to a resolution that I will text him. I will not only verbally, if I'm going to ask him to do anything else for me, I will ask him and then I will text him, and then he'll respond and let me know that I'll do this on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. That will satisfy my wants, and also, in a way, it's my need. It's my need, not his, or my want is to assist him in understanding his emotions. So if you're going to become a therapist, if you find yourself emotionally hurt, you can't run and hide. You're going to be a good therapist. You have to honor them. You have to acknowledge them. So, but what helped me a lot through this process was one, up early in the morning, meditating, getting the assistance from the Harthers and Tom Kenyon, visualizations, getting in touch with my feeling nature, walking my dog. Oh no, my dog walked me. I went where my dog wanted to go. That was a trip. And he took me to the same places that I always took him. But he took his time or her time. So it was wonderful. So that helped me resolve the conflict within myself. But still, I felt a need to resolve the conflict I was having between me and my son. And I needed to own my part of it. And I hope he learned his part of it. So that's why I brought up this subject. So I don't know if we have time for discussion about that today, but if you have some thoughts about it, feel free to express them.
I kind of looked at the list, and want falls on, I looked at it as want was attachment and need was non-attachment. And that's how I looked at the list, and I said, oh, those are all wants and those are all needs, kind of thing. That was just the thing that ran through my head.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
certainly.
I was thinking,
yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I have everything I need, but there's a lot of other things that I want. But I do have everything I need.
Yeah.
And I should be happy with that.
Yeah.
And I am. I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Yeah, when basic needs are met, then it's easier for us to function in life.
Right.
Right. And you're right, Kevin. The wants are, when I become insistent, with a want, I create conflict. Yeah. So I need to know when I'm doing that, and I need to know, and I can see how my grandson reacted to that. But I also hope he appreciates his lack of diligence in helping me help bring about I can't blame my frustration on him, but I can show him my frustration. I can let him know how I feel, and he has to let me know how he feels if we're going to resolve feelings of anxiety or upset or a self-image. For me, I think it's his situation, from my perspective, and watching him grow up, is a tendency to run and hide if his feelings get hurt. And I'd like to help him grow out of that. I know I don't have the ability, but at least I feel I can point it out.
Comes to mind is I've been listening to these channels, and Jesus came through, and the interviewer asked him what happened between those years of 18 and 33 years old, where nothing's been documented. And what the response from Jesus is I was having a human experience and trying to deal with the difference between needs and wants, and basically saying I was having these conversations with God. It's the only person he could truly be truthful with, because everybody misunderstood who he was and what he was up to. And so he was gracious, but didn't really answer specifically. But he basically admitted, I was being human and testing the waters, and there was no need to document such things.
Yeah, and he certainly learned that some errors he could deliver his message, they didn't accept it, so he moved on.
Yeah.
He didn't need to stay there, or didn't want to stay there, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And
Charlie, with your grandson, a suggestion, if you don't mind, for giving him the space to know that, or I should say this way, when I feel a certain way and I go to that person and I say, I felt hurt or disappointed when you didn't, whatever, or this thing didn't happen. And then the most important part, though, is to allow that person to express themselves without reaction, so that then the person feels safe to be able to share their feelings. People retract when they don't feel as though their feelings are honored, or that they're not heard. And if someone else's feelings, it's not up for whether we agree with them or not. It's how they feel, and they just need a space where they know that they're honored, their feelings are honored. So I think that if you emulate that and you set that example for him, it'll be a wondrous thing, and then he'll learn how to express himself, because he'll have had this interaction with you that was positive.
yeah, I express the first part of that. Express that again. The first part of what you said.
Holding. So you're going to use the I when you feel triggered, or when I feel triggered, excuse me. I say, Charlie, when you said this, I felt this way. I felt hurt. I felt disappointed. I thought we had an understanding. What was your understanding? So we're seeking to understand. I expressed my feelings, but I'm seeking to understand the other person. I'm not making an accusation, which gives them the sense that they're in a safe space to be able to share their feeling. And then we don't react to their feelings, because we're not attached to their feelings. Their feelings are their feelings. We may or may not be the cause. Their operating system is different. So just having that space and that honor, and when you give him that honor of being able to express his feelings, it'll be a game changer for him.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and it's very, very great example. And part of it has been my fear of invading his privacy, because he likes to be very private. He stays in his bat cave and hardly comes out. He doesn't want to be disturbed. So I own that part of it. So you're right. If this situation arises, I need to come from a space of wanting to understand and let him understand my needs without blaming him. Yeah, thank you. It's a good session. I got to move on, kids. So I got other things.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I came to some insights myself. Thank you.